Back on TYT Sports, back with some more Turks and Jerks. If you want to check out our Best of the NFL, the Turks of the Week segment following Week 1, it's already up. It should have been up for about an hour now. We can link to that somewhere over in this area. We're going to move into our Worst of the NFL, usually the more fun side of Week 1. Before we get into the Worst of the NFL, something I'm going to throw out there to begin each of the Worst of the NFL segment. Sometimes the NFL is the worst and takes away players' careers for an entire season, or at least their season is gone. Keenan Allen, Delvin Brew look like they are done. The New Orleans Saints cornerback, which if you follow any forum, any thread, there Saints fans were freaking out. An already weak secondary just took a major blow. Keenan Allen, for what, a second straight year he's blown out his ACL?
No,
or
it wasn't.
Second time in 3 years?
It's the second. I mean, last season, the back half of the season was not lost to a knee injury, but it's the second straight year that he'll miss. He's going to miss the
Significant
whole year.
time, which obviously had its costly effect on the Chargers' offense.
Well, who knows? Let's talk about that. Let's start with Jerks with JR, because that's JR's
Well,
pick.
outside of the obvious, the Jerks tonight are going to be the San Francisco 49ers because they're running up against these Los Angeles Rams. Just to tell you that, at the beginning of the campaign for a Super Bowl championship back in Los Angeles. Either way it goes.
Back in Los Angeles. When was the first one? I forget. When did they win that Super Bowl?
Before I was born.
No, never.
I guess it's crossover to
Yeah.
the St. Louis one. But hey, I call two homes. So either way it goes, the actual Jerks before the 49ers become the Jerks were actually the San Diego Chargers, a team that I'm still clueless as to why they show us that game locally in Los Angeles, because nobody likes the Chargers in L.A. I haven't heard of anyone that likes the Chargers in L.A. ever.
I don't know anybody likes the Chargers in San Diego.
No, they got to.
They do have a great fan base down there, and that's why I was wondering how they could stay there, because that's the only city that's going to like these losers. Anyway, they gave up a 27-10 lead, 23 unanswered points.
They gave up 24-3 lead.
24-3 lead, yeah. But fourth quarter, it was a 27-10 fourth quarter lead. But overall, yes. So 33 unanswered points from the end of the third quarter into the fourth quarter and through overtime, which the Chargers didn't even get a chance because of the touchdown being scored. And the knee-jerk reaction is this horrible Chargers defense gave up all these points, give up this, give up that. But you know what? The offense is part of the team. Mm-hmm. You have to run plays, you have to keep the ball, you have to sustain drives. I mean, when you have that kind of lead, I guess the bare minimum is use some clock, keep the ball.
Well, how do you keep the ball?
Maybe go for one down.
How do you keep the ball in the NFL? Generally, how do you move the clock, keep the ball? You run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And Melvin Gordon, their first-round pick last year,
Scored a touchdown
2 touchdowns in the first quarter. And then was in 23 plays after that. 23% of the plays, or just I think 23 snaps after that. I don't know. I'm mystified by Jenk and I on the show, we talk about the Norv Turner, the stench of Norv Turner, and we thought it had been eradicated when Mike McCoy got there, but it has not. It has not. I wanted JR to go first because I wanted to talk about this game. Because to me, like, you could make a case the Jerks is everyone who's a Charger fan, and it's not their fault. Like, it's everyone who feels the players, the organization, the fans, the people of San Diego, their families, for the people who made Anchorman, like everyone associated with San Diego, because like with 2 minutes to play in the third quarter is 24-3, right? About 2:40 to play, and then the Chiefs got their first touchdown to make it 24-10. But let's go back to when it's 21-3, and when it's 21-3. You're up 21-3 in Kansas City, a team whose over-under for the season is 9.5. They are not so much a consensus pick, but the leading pick to win the very difficult AFC West. The Chiefs are with the Broncos quarterback situation. And you're up 21-3. You have your elite wide receiver back, Keenan Allen, who was catching like 13, 15 balls a game last year before he's got 6 catches already. He catches every tough ball. He's such a beast, such a tough guy, such a money guy. And you're like, it's 21-3 in Kansas City. We've got Keenan Allen. We're healthy. And then in 2.5 quarters, everything is ruined. Like, is there any doubt what the Chargers' record is this year? Let me help you out. 4-12. It's done. That's it. That's what that. So you went from thinking, we're going to go 9-7 or 10-6. We're taking a wild card, couple of breaks go this way. We're winning the AFC West. Oh no, Keenan Allen's out for the year, and we just gave up 23 straight. We were going 4-12. Well, I hope there's a good. You know what? Should we take a quarterback with the 4th pick of the draft? Maybe win the tiebreaker. Maybe we'll pick second. They're bad, and it's just everything went wrong from a thing where you're like feeling so good as a team, as a fan. Like,
what a way to start the season.
What a way to start the season! And then it just couldn't have possibly.
Because it's a tough place to play in Kansas City, no matter how
Really
bad.
tough.
Very loud,
Right.
Arrowhead, of course.
Right. So as soon as it's like when the crowd is out of the game, that's where you want to be.
Oh
And then
yeah,
they were
totally.
allowed
And
back.
then you do it by run. And they didn't run the ball, and it was peculiar. And Melvin Gordon vanished after. He didn't just get 2 1-yard touchdown runs. He looked good. My jerk is a couple of. I'm going to make it 4 wide receivers. 1, Terrance Williams.
Yeah, thank you.
For not going out of bounds. Now, he caught the ball at the 47-yard line. There was 10 seconds on the clock. He probably could have gotten to the 45 and gotten out of bounds. That's a 63-yard field goal. Dan Bailey's really the best kicker in the league. They probably would have tried to run another play with about 8 seconds left. A quick out, take 4 seconds, try and get 5, 6 more yards. It's Dak Prescott. They might not succeed. There's a good chance they end up trying that field goal from 63 yards. I think they would have tried it from 63 with Bailey rather than a Hail Mary. And it's Dan Bailey. He might have made it, right? And certainly if they'd gotten 7 more yards, then all of a sudden you're talking about a 57-yard field goal. He'd already made a 56-yarder.
Which was his career long.
Yeah, but he can kick.
Which had more leg
Right.
on
And
it, by the way.
He can kick. Dan Bailey can kick, and it would have been nice to give him a try under 60 yards to win the game. However, the win probability guys at the point that Terrance Williams made that catch have their chances at 7%. So assuming he gets out of bounds and they don't complete it, like maybe with Bailey, maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 11%. They probably weren't going to win anyway, so hanging the loss on Terrance Williams is not fair.
Right.
But that said, he's not a rookie. First of all, I'm pretty sure clock runs and clock stops running in out of bounds in high school and Pee Wee football too. So he's in his 4th year. Right? The only reason he's not a star, he's on the team, presumably because he's okay and he's not an idiot. So, like a rookie who makes a impulse, I can break this and get 8 more yards and get out of bounds, might make that decision. You're in your 4th year in the league, you got to get out of bounds, and you got to know it. The great photo of Des Bryant, who people love to criticize for his, not stupidity, but his hot-headedness, right? I mean, Des Bryant is go out of bounds.
It's
Just
like
pointing,
a shot
pointing.
of just, you can't see his head, just his number.
But
And
he's like, you see his arm going, get out, get out. So it was really dumb. And now Marvin Jones of the Detroit Lions on their game-winning drive that ended with the Matt Prater field goal. First of all, and that relates to the Colts being jerks of the week also, which you'll get to because that's mind-numbing to me. But Marvin Jones also didn't go out of bounds. And he made a move to get out of bounds, and then he was running along the sideline. He was trying to get as many yards as possible. That's good. But at the end, you gotta fall out of bounds.
don't take any contact dive.
He didn't do it either, and they had to burn a timeout. It all worked out. The Colts aren't mad at anybody. Matt Prater drilled the field goal after missing an extra point, and they win. But Marvin Jones, again, you've been in the league. You have to get out of bounds. He made a great move to get 10 extra yards, and it was safe because you're along the sideline. But you can't allow yourself to be tackled on the sideline. And Stafford was justifiably angry. He was mad at Eric Ebron in the play before for fighting for extra yards instead of going down quickly and allowing them to call the timeout. Again, none of it mattered because Prater made the field goal and they got enough yards. But Marvin Jones, also you got to know that you got to go out of bounds. And then finally, Kenny Stills. All Kenny Stills did was drop a pass. But he dropped a 80-yard touchdown pass where he was open by 15 yards, and it was literally handed to him. It was softly thrown. It was perfect. He dropped it. He did the thing that a lot of guys do, which is, hey, cool, man, you drop passes in the NFL. I get it. You drop passes. I mean, he was unguarded, right? Right.
5 to 7 yards.
Yeah, I think 9 yards. Right. There was nobody within his zip code. He drops the pass, and then he flips the ball to the referee like no big deal, and then he took himself out of the game because he was tired. So I think that's what happened. He did the hand up like I need to come out. And I get it. He just sprinted 60 yards. You were a sprinter. You run 60 yards. You're tired.
And with pads on.
Right, with pads on.
Right.
I'm tired. So he maybe needed to come out of the game. Nonetheless, the mere act of, in a game where you lost, what was it, 12-10.
Yes.
Here's what would have helped. A touchdown. So Kenny Stills, Michael Crabtree, and then the guys who wouldn't go out of bounds, Terrance Williams and Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones is going to do well. I think they're in Detroit, but those were puzzling decisions.
Yeah, he was one of the guys that tested the free agency waters. Looked for a while like he was somebody that everyone was going to be rushing to trade.
Well, I think he's going to be. Look, the Lions look really good, and I wish I had Matt Stafford now.
Well,
but even
that's where you're wrong about the Lions looking really good.
Well, but first, the thing about Marvin Jones was they called the timeout. They were okay, and they won the game. He cost him a play. Like
No,
if you go out of bounds, they keep their
totally.
timeout. They can get 12 more yards over the middle of the field and call timeout.
Would you say that's the most 7-9 bullshit you've seen all week?
That was some 7-9
I
bullshit.
figured. The Lions looked okay. If
No,
we're
the
really
offense-
watching back
The
the tape.
offense looked good.
And the offense looked good because
39
the
points.
Indianapolis Colts defense is a travesty to football.
Yeah.
It's also a travesty to Andrew Luck. And I say this, so last year, and I can't even remember the coach I was mentioning all season long that had to be fired. It was the Miami Dolphins coach that if they're not going to use him, get rid of him.
Not going to use who?
Joe Philbin, right? Was that the coach
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
Miami
yeah.
Dolphins?
Right.
They didn't. It was one of those ways, one of those situations where 6 weeks into the year, oh, let's just wait to the end of the season to fire him or fire him now. And firing him now was the right call, which they eventually
Oh, yeah,
made.
which they did, right.
Week
I
in
see
and
what you-
week out. If I'm Andrew Luck, and I don't know how you could even make this work because getting traded or finding a different situation, I would get the hell out of Indianapolis. Because now for was this his 5th year in the league? Andrew Luck is as much like Aaron Rodgers in so many ways. And no, I don't mean by actually record-wise, playoff wins, that type of thing. What I'm saying is he is a complete package quarterback who always will find ways to put his team in winning situations, and especially on any kind of competent organization. But the Colts are not a competent organization, and year after year, they have not been able to fix a broken secondary, maybe one of the worst in the leagues. They have not been able to really add anything.
Did Vontae
to
Davis
help.
play? He didn't.
No,
right?
he's out.
Yeah.
He was out. And even with Vontae Davis alone, like that's not one you can just blame one defensive back injury on. That is a poorly communicated
Yeah, totally.
defensive
Look,
front and defensive secondary. So I can't keep watching Andrew Luck pretty much throw his career away.
I agree. That's a
Because
great
this-
point. I think it's not so much Chuck Pagano, it's Jim Irsay.
No, I agree with you 100%. I like Chuck Pagano, actually. I think he's...
Well, it's hard not to like him. I don't know that he's a great coach, but it's hard not to like him. But Irsay, they have personnel issues, and other people in the league know that about them. What's puzzling to me is I don't remember exactly how much time the Lions had for that last drive.
give you.
If they started it at the 25 after a kick into the end zone, it makes it even more egregious, right? Because they have 3 timeouts. Like giving them the middle of the field for 20 yards is not helpful to you. They'll take the 20 yards and they'll call timeout. And then there'll be 48 seconds left and they'll have 2 timeouts and they'll need to get 20 yards. 20 yards. Guess what they're going to get? 20 yards. So the way defenses are structured, if they needed a touchdown, it would have been different. Although I think we all believe that if the Lions had needed a touchdown on that drive, they would have eventually scored a touchdown.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's different if you need a touchdown because the field gets difficult there at the end. But you cannot keep thinking, hey, I'm going to give them the middle of the field and give them 30. If there was 12 seconds to play, you can give them the middle of the field, 20 seconds, but not a minute and not with 3 timeouts. And I feel like teams don't adjust for that. Like if there had been 55 seconds and no timeouts, probably you can give them the middle of the field. You're more likely to survive that play. But 20 yards, they're at the 45-yard line. They only need to get to your 35 for what has now become Earth's most makeable field goal, a 53-yard field goal, with, by the way, the kicker who holds the NFL record for kicking the longest field goal in a game. Matt Prater can get it there. So it's totally to your point, but that's on Pagano. That is a backwards way of thinking.
That's right.
We are not going to pressure the quarterback in these 2-minute offense, and we are going to give you the middle of the field. If there are no timeouts, that's fine. If you have timeouts, if they have timeouts, especially 3, you can't do it. You can't do it. And the Colts, watching the Colts lose that game, and you could see it happening right after that.
It's lazy. It's
Yeah,
lazy
it
football.
It is.
It's doing, well, this is what we always do. Do what you're doing right now. Think about what you're doing right now in work. It's like not going to work. Like, well, this is what I've always done. I'll just put it in automatic mode because that's what we just do. And you lose like that. It's
This
horrible.
is very overreactionary. We have to wrap up. The Texans have a very strong chance of winning that division. More so than the Colts, I would say, at this point.
Oh, I agree.
Just
yeah.
based on that defense and based off what we saw from Houston, and what they are capable of doing, because they have some form of defensive communication
Yeah, and
at
now,
all times.
And now with Braxton Miller and Will Fuller to go with DeAndre Hopkins,
Right.
the Texans have weapons
Lamar
for
Miller's
this
there
kid
too, correct?
and Lamar Miller. And so the Texans have weapons. Osweiler has weapons to use.
I'm always amazed. He's a big guy.
Yeah, he's Osweiler.
Osweiler, yeah.
All right.
All right, that's our Jerks segment. Make sure to check out the Turks segment. It's up on the channel. Comment below with who your worst of the NFL was through week 1. Everything else in the description box below. Subscribing goes a long way. We'll see you next week.